Hey everybody, it's Casey Davis with My Life on the Me List, and in this video, I'm going to talk all about credit, your credit score, and then my 7 steps to become financially stable. All right, let's get at it. All right, everybody. So working in the financial industry, I have heard the question, what is credit and why is credit important? How do I use credit to become financially stable? So in this video, I'm going to talk about all of those steps. So first of all, what is credit? Credit is the ability to borrow money with the understanding that you will be paying that back. And with credit, there are 3 major credit bureaus that people work through. So there's Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. All of the 3 operate the same way and have the same general understanding of credit and how they use credit, but all 3 of them can vary with how they come up with their algorithm for creating that credit score. All right, so what makes up a credit score? Credit scores are made up of ratios of different types of loans. There's different types of things like revolving credit, there's personal loans, there's mortgages, there's auto loans, and things like that. So let's think of a credit score and what generates a credit score simplistically. Let's think of it as a pie chart. So with the pie chart, you have a bunch of different factors that all added up together equal 100%. So in this pie chart, the biggest weighing factor to generate your credit score is your payment history. Did you make the payment? That's really what credit bureaus are looking for. So what considers an on-time payment is any payment that does not go 30 days past due. With different financial institutions, you have a specific due date for a credit card or for an auto loan or a home loan. Those are on a fixed date usually. If you don't pay your bill on that date, sometimes you have something called a grace period, which gives you a couple extra days past the due date to make a payment. Sometimes there's daily interest, sometimes there's a late charge fee, and if you go past that due date, that's not necessarily going to affect your actual credit score. When it will affect your credit score is once you get past 30 days from that initial due date. Now that's 35% of what makes up that credit score. So 35% is did you make your payment or not? Coming in at a close second at 30% is the amount that you owe on your debts, mainly revolving debt. So what that means is on your credit cards, things that are considered revolving that have the ability to go up and go down with your balance, there's something called your aggregated revolving balance. And the ideal amount to carry month to month on those revolving cards is to really be below the 30% limit of your credit card month to month. If you can pay off your credit card each month, perfect. That's what we would like you to do. But if you're unable to make your card payment in full, so maybe you went out and bought some furniture on a store credit card and you have to take a few months to pay that down, that's fine. That's totally okay to do. The ideal amount that you would want to carry month to month on that credit card or that charge card is 30% of whatever your limit is. Now, there is some information out there that says you could go as high as 50% of your limit and still see about the same amount of impact as it would at that 30%. If you can pay it off each month in full, that's what we would like you to do. The next one coming in at 15% is the length of credit history. You'll probably hear in your lifetime that you have green credit or you have new credit. And what that means is your average age of credit, which is all of your trade lines that are reporting to your credit report. The ideal is to have at least 3 years average credit history or more. Once you're past that 3-year mark, that's when you're no longer considered green credit or new credit. And then that risk level of you having limited or young credit is lower as you grow on with your credit history. The next 2 both come in at 10% each. The first one is your types of credit that you open. So it's good to have multiple different types of credit. I've mentioned before there's things like revolving lines, which are your credit cards or store cards, and then installment lines, which are your auto loans, your recreational vehicle loans, your mortgages, things that have a fixed payment. So at 10% of what generates your score is the types of credit that you have. And then the other 10% is the types of new credit that you get. So as you kind of go on with your credit report and your credit history and your payment history, you'll eventually get a new car, you'll upgrade your house, have a new mortgage. All of those different types of credit do have a small impact on what actually generates your credit scores. Now remember, both of those are about 10% each. All right, so why is credit good? Credit is good because if you ever need to borrow money for big ticket items like a mortgage or even just a large auto loan, if you don't have cash that you've saved up for either the house to pay in full or to get that new car, you may have to borrow. And borrowing means you need to have credit history. Credit history proves that you've had the ability to borrow money from an institution and pay that back on time, early, or however you've done that. So credit's good because if you ever need to borrow something, you can show through your credit history that you have the ability to repay whatever you borrow. Other things other than lending also require a credit score now. So in order to get a cell phone, get a bank account, insurance, they're going to do a credit check. So many things factor on your credit score and your credit history because it's how responsible are you and how can I trust you with your finances. You need a credit score for. Some other things that you may need a credit score for are for renting an apartment, not necessarily buying a home, but renting. Your utility bills. Have you paid your utilities on time? Have any of those had collections where you've stopped paying a bill or you missed a bill and now a collection agency is coming after you to collect on that unpaid balance? All those things are things that would be important to a landlord. We're also seeing a lot that prospective employers are pulling credit as well. All right, so in my opinion, when credit is bad is if you don't make those payments. So I've already mentioned before in the video that if you stop making a payment on something that you owe, or maybe you've charged off an account or you overdrew an account and now that institution or that creditor is using a collection agency to get that money back. So that's when credit can be bad, is if you don't make those payments and then you go into collections or charge-off status. Those things weigh really heavy on your credit report, and even if you do have really outstanding credit payment history and maybe one collection or one charge-off, unfortunately, the weight of that negative payment is going to drag down your credit score. So all the hard work that you've done to build your credit score can easily be torn down by one missed payment or one charge-off or one collection. Another time when credit is bad is if you don't understand credit. I mentioned in one of my previous videos that as an early 20-year-old, I got into a lot of credit card debt because I didn't understand how a credit card worked. I didn't understand how interest worked. Not understanding credit, and when you're applying for credit, not asking that loan officer all the questions that you have can be really detrimental to your credit score as you're building, especially when you're brand new to credit. It's so important at the beginning because average age of credit should be at least 3 years. And so over 3 years of your credit score, the beginning 3 years are one of the most important times to make sure that you are paying things on time. You're understanding paying off those credit cards or things like that. Making sure that you understand and you ask questions when you're establishing credit. And when you have your loans, make sure you know what your interest rate is. Make sure you know when your due date is. Is there a grace period if you can't make your payment? What are the late fees? Make sure you have a full understanding of your loan or your credit card before you sign that line. One more thing that can be really detrimental to your credit score is if you have to file for bankruptcy. Now, there's multiple different types of bankruptcies. I'm not going to get into all of those, but the effect that a bankruptcy can have on your credit report can affect you for 7 to 10 years. That's a long time to have that one miss-up affect your credit score. So once again, the understanding of your credit, your loan, your payment history, everything about credit, it's so important that you ask the questions. And if you're stuck or you're struggling, talk to that institution. They're more willing to work with you than to just have you walk away. So don't be afraid to ask for help if you find yourself into a situation. Now that we've talked about credit and how credit is established, what builds credit, what tears down credit, let's talk about my 7 steps for being financially stable on your own, especially. So during my journey through my 29th year, I've mentioned before that I've gone through a divorce. I am moving out. We sold our house. I'm getting my own apartment. I've actually never lived on my own before. And so the importance of being financially stable is really, really high for me right now. And so I sat down and I came up with a list of the things that I thought would be the most important to share with you on how to be financially stable. This is advice that I've taken myself, I've been given, I've taught to loan officers, and also that I've taught to my members and my customers as I've been in the financial world for the last 10 years. The first step I would recommend to being financially stable is open a bank account. If you can't open a bank account, maybe you've had one before and now you're on something called check systems, which is kind of like a credit report, but for deposit history. So if you're on one of those check systems reports, bite the bullet, get that account taken care of, figure out who you owe money to and pay those things off. It is so important to have a bank account these these days because so many things are digital. The cash world, for one, it's risky in my opinion to walk around and carry cash. If you're ever mugged or robbed or you lose your wallet, that cash is gone. It is not insured. With a debit card or a credit card, if it's through a major credit card company, any fraudulent charges that would come through would be protected, and so you'd be able to dispute those. Also, an important thing for opening an account is if you don't have an account, there's fees for money orders, for cashing your check someplace. So the amount that you might have to pay, a small amount for a bank account, especially if you've had negative account history with a different institution, the price of one monthly payment would be far less than having to buy stamps, having to buy envelopes, having to buy money orders, having money taken out of your paycheck just to simply cash it. So first step, open up a bank account, have a savings account, have a checking account. Those first things first. All right, second step, pay yourself first. So what that means is have your savings account that I mentioned, set that up. It's so important to pay yourself first. Put money into your savings account. Having a savings account can help you if any future unexpected things come about. So it's good to have an emergency fund savings, and it's also good to have a secondary savings account that is not necessarily an emergency fund, but a savings account. According to the 8 Pillars of Financial Greatness, which is a book that I'll recommend, the book details are actually in the description below. So if you want to check that program out, it's a great program. I've done it myself. I'm still working on it. I highly recommend the 8 Pillars of Financial Greatness. According to them, it is best to have at least 3 months of your income in a non-emergency savings account, and then at least $1,000 in an emergency savings account. Now, that can take quite a bit of time to build up, especially as you're new to the banking industry and new to becoming financially stable. But make that one of your goals, is to figure out what all of your bills are each month and then save 3 months worth of that in a non-emergency savings account. And then also have that $1,000 in a secondary emergency savings account for things that come up, like an unexpected medical expense, maybe your medical deductible, maybe you need new tires because you get a flat tire on the road, something like that, things that we don't plan for. It's good to have that $1,000. So second step, pay yourself first. Make sure you have those savings accounts. All right, step 3, consolidate your debt. If you have multiple trade lines, you are paying not necessarily just 3 balances, but you're paying 3 interest rates. If you can consolidate all of your debt into one payment or as few payments as you can, my best advice for you is to figure out what those minimum payments were that you were making on those other trade lines. So maybe you have, like I said, 3 different credit cards. One of them is a $50 payment and the other 2 are $25 payments. So you're paying $100 just in minimum payments on a credit card. Credit cards, they're not like an installment loan, like an auto or a mortgage that have an end date. Revolving lines, they just go and go and go, and you keep paying interest on that balance and it's slowly coming off. Credit cards usually have a higher interest rate as well than an installment loan, because most installment loans have some form of collateral, like a car has a title, a house has your deed. Now there are unsecured installment loans like a signature loan or a personal loan. Those have a higher interest rate just due to risk, but that's a different conversation. So consolidate your debt. So back to those credit cards. If you can consolidate those 3 credit cards, for one, you'll have 3 interest rates, probably in the high teens, even in the high 20s of interest rate. Consolidate those into one payment. Maybe that one payment is $75. So now you're adding an additional $25 from what you were paying to one interest rate. You're going to really start seeing that balance pay down quicker. Once you get all 3 of those credit card balances consolidated or paid off, that $100, put that towards your mortgage, more towards principal, the less you'll pay in interest. So roll and snowball those payments. You're going to get out of debt so much faster. Step 4, find your net worth. Net worth is your assets and your liabilities. There's calculation, there's calculators you can find online. So just Google net worth calculator. They're going to ask for all of your types of income and then all of your expenses, things that cost you. So those are your loans that go to credit. Those are your utilities, daycare, emergency savings, entertainment, things like that. Understanding your net worth, which is the calculation, what's left over after all of your debts are taken out of your income, that dollar amount, that's your net worth. Figure out how much money you have after all of your debts are paid, what steps you need to take to either save more money, so quit spending things that don't bring purpose to your life, or just cut back on things. Maybe you currently spend $200 on eating out every paycheck. Cut that down to $150 and then start seeing what that $50 savings can do. Maybe put that into your emergency savings or put that towards a debt, something like that. You don't have to give up everything that brings you joy just to get out of debt. It's just being mindful of where you're at. All right, step 5. Building credit. It's good to have at least one revolving, which is a credit card of some sort, and one installment, which is a fixed payment, either a personal loan, a student loan, an auto, a mortgage, things like that. It's good to have both types of credit reporting on your credit report, so it shows a variable payment and a fixed payment. It's good to have one of each. Now, if you only have one, that's fine. Your credit score may only go so far, especially when you're building credit. Number 6. Can't make 6 with one hand. Read financial health books. 2 books that are my favorites. One is The 4 Laws to Financial Prosperity. It's a wonderful book about learning how to budget, get out of debt. It's told in a really fun, easy to read outline. I put a description for that book down below, so check that out. My second one that I mentioned earlier is The 8 Pillars to Financial Greatness. Now, this is a book, and it's also a course that you can register. I've participated in it before. I'm currently participating in it. It's a wonderful program. A lot of financial institutions offer some type of education that's similar to the 8 Pillars, but I would definitely check it out and register for yourself. There's a link below to the website as well. My last step to being financially stable is number 7, be patient. Building credit takes time. Ruining credit is so easy and it's so quick. You're very able to ruin all your hard work by one missed payment. Now, building credit, it's going to take a while, especially when you start paying things off. Don't necessarily have in mind that if you have a collection or a charge off or something that you've got to pay, as soon as you pay that, your score is going to jump up. It's not quite going to work that way. Give it about 6 months to a year of good payment history, especially after all derogatory is taken care of, before you really start seeing a realistic number. So it takes time to build credit. Be patient with yourself. Take these steps. Read your books. Open the savings account. Pay yourself first. Do all the steps that I recommend, plus find more. There's plenty of self-help books out there, audiobooks that you can download. There's courses you can take. Talk to a financial institution, a loan officer. There's so many tools and resources out there for you to get financially stable. These are just 7 steps that I found helped me and that I've educated on. They may help you, they may not. Comment below if you find any other steps or anything else that you've done personally that you thought would help you or me or anyone else be financially stable. So feel free to comment below on your advice and things like that. All right, everyone. So that was my 7 steps to being financially stable. Thank you so much for paying attention and for subscribing below. For more content about me and my life as I travel through my 29th year, for all the real and raw content, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Casey Davis, My Life on the Me List. And my next videos coming out will begin my minimalist journey that I've mentioned before. So I'll also include some links to my previous videos, and anything like that can help you out. So once again, thanks for all the love and support. I really appreciate all of you joining me on this journey. I'm super excited to share it with you. Thanks for sticking around. I'm so excited, and until next time.